Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to cover one of the bins that I made 2 years ago for one of my friends. So this is a slightly different system. Instead of my normal 10-gallon totes, this one had an 18-gallon tote nested inside a 10-gallon tote that had some risers in it to make it so it stayed off the bottom, and holes drilled in the bottom to drain any excess liquid, as I wanted to make this as simple as possible where he just threw in food and would forget about it. Now, it was supposed to be about 6 months or so that I would check in, but unfortunately the pandemic hit and we didn't really talk to each other very much as far as getting together. So it became 2 years, and he finally gave this bin back to me about a month ago. I've had it sitting here and was looking through it a little bit, but I want to show you some of the differences between how his system worked and how my systems typically work. And it's not anything that he did wrong. The system is working as it should, but he's using different inputs and he has a different output at the end. So let's go and take a look. I want to show you how this looks different from the material that I get out of my bins, even though he did everything right. So let's take a look and see how it's doing. All right, so the first thing I want to show you here is I know that the lid looks like it's been beat up a little bit. It has some white. They had a basement redo during the pandemic, and they had some dust that probably got on top of this, which is fine, but that's why it looks a little bit white. Top, very dry. But look at the material in here, and I know this is pretty deep. In fact, let me see if I can move this a little bit closer here so we can look down a little bit more into this bin, because this is quite surprising to me. So there we go. I think that's a little better. Just straighten it out a little bit there. You can see this material looks whitish gray. Now, what I found out is he primarily used, as you can see in here, the paper that he primarily used is office paper. So his castings have this white gray color to it instead of the dark, rich castings you normally would find. Worms, though, they're perfectly healthy. I mean, they are. There's tons of them in here, and they look great. You can dig in here. They're all over the place. They're very easy to see because of the material being such a different color. But look at this. I mean, it's just proliferation with worms. So, there's a little bit of plastic in here, it looks like, from, some of the paper they maybe used, a couple avocado shells, as I know he's big into, guacamole and avocados. But, I mean, like, the system looks really good. I mean, it really does. I mean, you could just see every single handful. I mean, there's even little tiny baby worms in here. I mean, there's just tons of worms in here. They're all spread out through the system. They look very healthy and vibrant. But he primarily used office paper, and because of that, the castings are a different color. Now, let's just contrast that. Let me just get some of this material off. It's a little sticky. Get these worms off here, too. Let's just contrast that with one of my systems that I have right next door here. I'm going to pull up a handful of castings here. And this is how the castings look in my system. So, because I use cardboard and maybe darker materials, they look very different. They look like the worms in here are perfectly healthy, but the material just looks very different. I was quite surprised by that when I opened it up to take a look. But, I mean, you could tell, I mean, the worms in here, I mean, like, you can see the material, you can see the real difference right there. I mean, it's right on top of each other. And this is a little bit too, maybe a little bit too wet, but it's not overly damp. I mean, like, it still crumbles apart. It's a little sticky, but it's not bad at all. But it's just a very big difference as far as, I mean, you can see all the worms in here. I mean, it's just, I'm amazed at how many worms there are. I really was worried when I opened it up that I'd find it to be dead. Now, the shirt that I had in here, if you remember my previous video, which I will link up top, I put a shirt in so that way he could throw the stuff in underneath the shirt. Eventually, this worked its way down, and it's eaten out a little bit, but not too much. But the shirt is still there after 2 years. Normally, I find the shirts are gone after about that amount of time. But it's just, I mean, like, you can just see the worms in here are incredibly healthy. So it's time to sort this out. I do notice that there's a lot of plastic paper in here. I think he just shredded up his some of his junk mail and threw it in, which is fine. But we're going to have to probably separate that out as we go through this. So the next thing to do would be to run this through, probably to leave the lid off, dry it out, move it around a little bit, dry it out, and then run this through my sorting machine and see what comes out on the other side. It looks like there's probably a good between 1.5 to 3 pounds of worms in here when I was looking. Now, there is one thing, though, that did happen with this. So let's just talk about this here real quick, because I'm not going to do the sorting today, because I do need to let this dry out by leaving the top off a little bit. But let me take off my glove here. And there's one thing I did find out is that he was also feeding one food source as the primary food source, and that is watermelon. So this is not a bad thing to be feeding watermelon, but watermelon has a lot of water content. So let me lift this up here. Actually, hold on a second here. I need to put something that I can put this down on. Give me just a second. All right, here we go. Let's lift this up and move this off to the side. And you can see there is a problem with watermelon. Look how much water is in the bottom of this. So it's just a massive amount of leachate in here for what you'd normally find in a bin, or at least I normally find in my bins. So it looks like the wood boards that I painted and everything have held up pretty well. I'm not going to put gloves in here. This will be dumped outside somewhere, and probably, actually, I'll probably water this down and then dump this outside. I'm not going to keep any of this. But that is the one thing with using this system right here. There's a lot of leachate. But the thing is that you can control it. There's no odor from it, which really is surprising to me. Normally I thought this stuff kind of smells. But you can just see, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of it in here. And there's a lot of stuff that flowed through the bottom. But because of the shirts, it's not like the ton of material just leached out through the bottom. So overall, the system worked very well. Surprisingly, it's lasted, as I said, 2 years in his house. So, you know, it's time to dry it out, leave the lid off, dry it out and everything. Actually, hold on a second here. I'm just seeing something right here. Before we do that, let me just show you this right here. This is something that I've never seen in my systems before, but look at all those cocoons. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. I'm guessing this is in focus here for you. But right here, you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe? 7 cocoons on there? 8? I don't know if you can see more or not. There's a couple of them that look like they're also already hatched, but there's a lot of cocoons on here. We've got a little baby worm right there. So, I mean, this system, is, as I said, is just doing phenomenal. I was quite surprised. But this is another design, and as I said, I'll link it up top, this design, where you have holes in the bottom, a shirt to kind of block any of this, the material from flowing down, as you could do in a pot, but then you can throw this stuff in, and any excess water just flows out through the bottom, and then you just dump that out later. But you get these nice, you know, this material, it's very usable. It's just, it's a little wet, but other than that, it's incredibly usable. You know, it actually looks really good, like really good material. It's just slightly damp. So that's my update for this one. I just wanted to give everyone a quick heads up that this was going to be coming up. I'm going to probably dry this out over the next couple weeks, leave the lid off, shake it around constantly as I just did right here. And, you know, we'll go from there. Now, as I said, this is also a higher system, but everything gets compacted down in the bottom, which makes it a little harder, too, with these, which is why I don't usually use these deep bins. But I figured for somebody else, a deep bin makes a lot more sense. It's easier to control as far as adding in more paper and things like that than trying to manage something that's not quite as deep. So overall, the system looks very good. It's just a little different because of the material in it, but it looks very good. So we'll get drying this, and we'll come back and we'll take another look and maybe start sorting it out and figure out how many worms are really in here. So thank you for watching, and if you have any questions on this system, leave a note down below and let me know what you think.